My name is Lisa Ostrow, and we are in Franklin, Massachusetts. I'm totally blind. I was born blind, and I have only light perception. So that means that I can actually tell if the lights are on or off, and that's about it. I ended up here in Massachusetts when I came to go to Harvard back in 1984, it was. I studied Slavic languages and literature with a degree in Russian. I graduated in 1988 on June 9th and got married 2 days later because my dad had this assertion that he was definitely going to be sure that it was my maiden name that was on that Harvard degree. So that actually also starts at the beginning because my father is a professional musician. Music was always just a huge part of my growing up years. I studied piano with the Royal Conservatory of Toronto. And I studied there with them until I was 16. So I have about 10 years of very formal training under my belt. I've also been a singer since a very young age. So just the house was just always filled with music, as my house is. The camera can't show it, but we're actually sitting in a pretty much, it's supposed to be my living room, but there's a upright Samick piano, an organ, guitar, balalaika over in the corner. So there's a lot of music in this house too. I have 3 children. My oldest is going to be 18 at the end of July. She obviously plays piano. She's also a singer and she's a songwriter. My identical twin daughters are almost 15, and one is a pianist. Her name is Jenny. She plays piano as well as flute. And the other is Laura, and she's a violinist. After years of raising my children, I actually got back into the music business, and in December of 2007, I actually released my first solo debut album entitled Unconditional, and the proceeds for that album are being donated to the Polycystic Kidney Disease Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that helps in promoting research to find a cure for polycystic kidney disease. The reason that this is so important to us is because my identical twin daughters, Laura and Jenny, both have the disease. They were born with it. And I've wanted to be able to have my music matter and give back in some way. The whole project actually started sort of as a bit of it was going to be a gift for my father. He always had said to me, Lisa, you really need to record. It's high time that you actually sit down and put some of your music on to digital format at that point. And I had decided I would do 1 or 2 songs, and record them for my dad, and that would be that. I went down to the studio, to Double D Studio, which is Pat's studio, and did 1 or 2 songs, and he's like, no, this isn't enough, we're going to do a CD. And I said, oh, no, we're not. No. And he said, absolutely we are. So between our incredibly busy schedules, it took us almost 2 years to create Unconditional, mostly in the evenings. But it just grew. The project just grew and grew. It was a real labor of love. A couple of the tracks actually have my children on it. In fact, the first full track on the album, called Once Upon a Time, actually has Laura, Jenny, and Alina, as well as Pat's children singing in background, all of whom are musicians in their own right. Also, one of the songs on there is a duet with my own daughter, Alina. And it's called I Will Never Leave You. And so the family is very much involved in the project. In fact, my husband even sings backup on Once Upon a Time as well. So there's definitely there's a lot of love built into the creation of this project. A little bit about PKD. My twins, they are identical. PKD is a genetic disease, generally found in families. In my twins' case, we have no history of PKD in the family. There are about 600,000 Americans in the United States that have PKD. It's a very common disease, yet very few people seem to know about it. 12.5 million children and adults worldwide have this disease. It is incurable. The only solutions, if you have the disease, are dialysis and eventually transplant. The thing about, kind of in a nutshell, the thing about kidneys and blood pressure is that one affects the other, and it's a round robin. The blood pressure goes up, it affects the kidneys. The kidneys progress in whatever disease they might be struggling with, and that tends to make the blood pressure rise. So it really is a kind of a nasty circle. By limiting sodium intake, which is the typical approach with trying to keep blood pressure down, we've been able to keep the blood pressure down, which keeps the trauma to the kidneys at a minimum. So far, we've been able to keep things on an even keel. And that's kind of in a nutshell. And I know it sounds very simplified, but it's the easiest way for me to explain. My oldest daughter, it was, I think, 2 years ago, became the founder and president of I believe it's the only Massachusetts chapter of Students for Organ Donation. And my twins are now picking up the reins and going to be continuing that since Alina's off to college. So I think we all are trying in our own ways to support the cause in the ways that we can. You know, for me it's music, for the girls it's involvement and promoting organ donation, and that's what I hope to do through the music and through the album is the promotion of education of the need, not only for obviously a cure for PKD, but also there is, you know, the touchy subject of organ donation and how incredibly important, you know, that can be. Not just for obviously people suffering with kidney disease, but all sorts of other diseases that are out there that, you know, lives that could be saved if people understood more about organ donation and what it can mean to a life. It's kind of like this. It's like me being blind. I always knew I was blind, you know, there's no question. And it's not something that defines me. PKD does not define my daughters. It does not define our family. It is, like my blindness, something that is simply a fact of life, something that I learned to adapt to make changes to, but it will not and never can define me. And that's what I wanted to pass, to impart to my daughters, all of them. That PKD is not something that should ever define who they are. They are who they are. They're girls who happen to have PKD, just like I'm Lisa and I happen to be blind. Our goal, especially now with the girls, is just live, you know, live every day, take out of every day what you possibly can, and that should be everybody's rule, whether you're blind or have PKD or gosh, I don't know, have trouble hearing, whatever you perceive as your disability, because everybody has something in their lives that they need to overcome. It could be something tangible that you can reach out and touch, or it can be something deep inside you. But we all have something we have to overcome. But I think the overall philosophy here is to just live every day and take every moment, and because you just don't know what's coming down the road, and it really doesn't matter as long as you take every opportunity that's presented to you.